Hey everybody, welcome back to the Quest for the Bestest. It's the podcast from Backlot Banter where we review every single Best Picture winner. Not Best Picture winner, what am I talking about? Palme D'or winner.
What?
No.
This guy's years out of date.
Years out of date. We're talking about the Cannes Film Festival, and today we're talking about a film that won at Cannes. It did not win at the Oscars. That would be Wim Wender's 1984 flick, Paris, Texas. A storied movie, one that's pretty famous, I'd say. One of the more famous Palme winners out there. Excited to talk about old WW with you guys today. We're going to get right into it. We're going to do it quick. But last time we talked about the film Viridiana from Louis Buñuel. Let me find where it is here on the list. There it is. It's at spot number 38. Got a 6.8. Pretty swag. Good job, Buñuel. We had fun talking about that one and, dug into a bit of an inscrutable movie and kind of took our chisels and found a little gem in the middle of it. But, 6.8 is what a 6.8 is. So,
what's the most scrutable movie we've talked about?
Quite scrutable, huh?
I don't know. Kagemusha?
Quite scrutable.
Scrutable. You're a scrutable fellow.
Everyone in the comments, rank the four of us by our scrutability.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's exciting.
The scrutability scale. We'll have to...
boost our engagement.
Yeah. Be extra transparent or something to up our score. Whatever. Let's get back to the topic at hand. Wim Wenders. First, though, Abram, a comment from the field.
Guys, I'm gonna keep it 100 with you. The only comments we've gotten are on our Five Nights at Freddy's review, and I don't want to.
The video's doing quite well.
It's doing quite well. It's doing quite well. I mean, okay, you twisted my arm. Let's read the comment about Five Nights at Freddy's.
Just choose one.
Give
Come
us
on
something
now.
juicy.
Hey, listen, for a movie that has a rampant fan base that neither Tucker or I like very much, the comments are fairly civil, I would say. They're quite civil.
Yeah, okay, so here we go. In the game... No, sorry, I can't even pretend.
I can't even
pretend. I can't even pretend. I'm sorry.
That's the longest and most... That one's inscrutable, I'll give you that.
Yeah, here's one that comes from... I'm going to go with Ev Sinister as the name.
Okay.
I'm sure they're watching a Paris, Texas review, so they can correct me.
Absolutely,
yeah. Well, because it wasn't made for y'all who just started with this franchise recently or are not a fan at all. It was clearly stated that this movie was made for the fans since day one. Now, Ev Sinister. I am going to see Five Nights at Freddy's 2. I've already seen it by the time you've seen this video.
Wow.
I have not seen the first movie. I've never played the Five Nights at Freddy's game. I know Springtrap. I know Chica.
Oh, wow.
I know Foxy. And I know that there's a little boy.
Golden Freddy.
What about Freddy?
I know Freddy, and I know the Golden Freddy version of him.
Okay.
And I also know that there's a little little mannequin boy with a lollipop in the new movie.
Yep.
Sure, close enough.
So, anyone else want to comment on Five Nights at Freddy's? I don't know what to say.
I have nothing to say.
I love leaving this to Avery where he just fumbles his way through and embarrasses himself. So.
Let's go to a topic we have a little bit more authority to speak on, which would be the movie directed by Wim Wenders of the topic today. Paris, Texas, starring Harry Dean Stanton, Natasha Kinski, and Dean Stockwell. We know some of these actors. I don't think any of them have been on the show before, but they make an appearance today. So, Tanner, would you do us a favor and do a little plot synopsis of this film? Kind of a, if I might say, a meandering film, but what Wim Wenders' film doesn't take its twists and turns. So, what happens in this one?
Well, Timo, gentlemen, here's a film that was made for the fans from day one. What we have in Paris, Texas, is a film about a man named Travis. Travis, we are introduced to him. He is wandering the desert, and we learned he has been doing so for the last several years. After a falling out with his wife and their young child, he has been separated from them and has been on sort of a shambling spirit journey, I guess you could maybe call it, or maybe he's just running away from his problems. But a walkabout. Thank you, Tucker.
A walkabout.
But regardless, after 4 years, he collapses from heat exhaustion in a small town in Texas, and the local doctor there rings up his brother and he's like, "Hey, this guy passed out in your town. You have to come get him." And he's like, "Holy shit, my brother has been found after 4 years." And so it's a bit of a family reuniting as Travis's brother tries to get out of Travis exactly what happened and where he's been for the last several years. All of this really snowballs into Travis taking his now 7-year-old son on a road trip to go find his wife / Hunter, the young boy, his mother, in Houston, Texas, and try and rekindle something or make wrongs right after how many years.
Sure.
Abram, what did you think of this one? Have you seen, first of all, seen any other Wim Wenders films? This is your first.
No, first.
And so what'd you think of it?
I thought it was amazing. I think it's an amazing movie. This is one of the
hot
ones where
take
sort of-
alert.
yeah, I know. This is sort of one of the ones where its reputation certainly precedes it. I wasn't really familiar with what the film actually is, just sort of its notoriety and status among, I think, a lot of film fans of our age and older, but really our
Yeah.
age online.
Yeah.
I think what was so sort of centrally captivating to me about this film is its look and its pace. I think what's so intriguing to me about this is the way that we have this very complicated, very upside down, emotional film, familial film. We're dealing with this family situation. It's not quite right, and we're trying to reorient it, and we don't understand the central character. And I'm sort of left as a viewer to really sit in and stew in the ambiguity and the sort of insidious core of the lack of knowing. And I think that the way that the film sort of keeps me trapped in that mode for so long, sort of feeling like the other shoe is about to drop at any moment, is very captivating. And then I sort of find myself all like screwed up and tense and just wanting to know. I just want to know. I find myself feeling a lot like Walt as I'm watching. And then to have sort of this beautifully delivered emotional catharsis and reveal at the end is quite powerful, specifically in the way that it makes me really afraid of Travis. And I think
Sure.
that's a very interesting trick to play on me as a viewer. So I found myself really, really taken by this one.
Tanner, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, similar. I pair a lot of what Abram just said there. Paris, Texas has probably a unique standing in my film knowledge in that I had not seen this film before. I had seen just one Wim Wenders film previously, and that would be Perfect Days, his most recent film. And Paris, Texas is probably one of the most notable, beloved, and famous movies that I had no idea what the story was about.
Yeah.
Like usually, even for movies that I have not seen, I have a general understanding of who's in them, what's going on in it, the cultural history or cultural knowledge of said film. But Paris, Texas, I had no clue what to expect going into it, other than, of course, the iconic imagery that sort of lives larger than the film or the plot, even in the film Twitter sphere at least. And yes, I was very, very taken and smitten by Paris, Texas. I think it is a fabulously told and constructed film that is, if you can believe it, gentlemen, really fucking beautiful looking and has some of the best use of color and blocking and direction and camera movement that I've had the pleasure to view in my film loving days.
I'm gonna go next and say that, well, yes, I like this movie quite a bit. I'm quite a Wenders fan myself. I've seen a good number of films: Perfect Days, Lisbon Story, Wings of Desire, this one, and I am really enjoying the almost distillation of the Wenders, I don't know, ethos or mindset. Like, what is he interested in as a director? And this kind of the lostness, being surrounded by a confusing world. I think Paris, Texas really gets at the core of some of these questions that he's asking, using the elements of filmmaking that Wim Wenders is really good at. Things you guys note: color, cinematography, sets, locations. Plus, this one has great soundtrack by Ry Cooder. Bluesy,
absolutely.
twangy. Very,
Lots
very
of slide guitar, lots of panoramic shots of the desert and a slide guitar going.
And the Texas-ness of this film, it being Paris, Texas, we don't really end up in Paris even all that much in the film.
Not
It's kind
really.
of this mythical place. I myself have
Yeah.
been to
It's
Paris,
a Rebecca
Texas.
type movie.
Oh, good point, Tucker. Great
yeah.
point. Timo, you spoiled the question I was going to ask. Of our two Texas sons, have either of you been to Paris, Texas?
Yeah, I've been twice. I've climbed on the Eiffel Tower there a little bit. You're not supposed to do it, but you know, a little bit.
I was about to ask the exact same thing.
But the other parts of Texas too, just like this is very Wim Wenders does a great job of like capturing this kind of landscape and this vibe. He's a very vibes-based filmmaker, but not in a I don't exactly know what's going on, and there's some ideas in the I know exactly what's going on through the kind of this misty cloud of ideas and places and people and themes. And so yeah, it's a really enjoyable film for me to watch. And hot damn, it's beautiful. So
It's beautiful.
Tucker, you're next. What'd you think?
Yes, I just want to make sure. Like, I don't know if someone else wanted to like say something, so I was biding my tongue. I know I like this movie. I think that it was as slow as it is. I found it surprisingly watchable. I think the intrigue of the vagueness, the vagary of our main character is very distinct. It makes you interact with the world of film in a different way, as it feels like you have amnesia almost, and you're trying to piece together what's going on as the movie is going on. Instead of there being like an establishing shot that really sets you in the tone, it confuses you in the tone at the beginning, and so unraveling that was quite compelling. I think by the end of it, I'm not as hot on it as the rest of you, because I'm not as much a vibes-based film watcher, I think, as many people, especially in the film space, are. I think there is good character work here, but for as long and as slow of a movie it is, I'll often criticize a long and slow movie for feeling it, and by the end of this movie, I really did, because not you said there's a lot of twists and turns, but I don't think that's true.
There's not
this one.
There's
It's very straightforward, and in how surprisingly straightforward it was. There is some complexity on what the movie is trying to say about family structure and the ways we relate to other people and the way we present ourselves and our relationship to our memories and things like that. And I like those themes, but I really did want. I personally I wanted something more. I guess I wanted an answer, right? What really was he doing? Why was he out there? Like, we get like vague half answers to this, but the movie it's more about that vibe stuff, and it leaves you in this kind of unsatisfied feeling. And that the whole last act, when I realized it wasn't really going anywhere else, I'm like, oh well, yeah, okay. So I think it's good. I think it's beautiful. I think the performances are excellent. What character work is good, but it wasn't enough for me, and I was left unsatisfied.
Well, Tucker, that's all well and good, but you didn't answer my question. Have you been to Paris, Texas?
No.
Well, I think
I thought it was only in the movie.
Oh, okay.
Well, what Tucker, normally you pick us a topic area to discuss. You have something in mind to start us off with?
I think we have to unleash the beast. We have to unleash the beast. We have to unshackle the beast. Tanner Dykstra, begin your howling and woofing as if you were a hound of sorts. This is a film with majestic shots of the American West. And there is nothing more that this Midwestern boy loves than shots of the American West. And immediately as this movie opens and you get these crazy deep shots with like...
It is the opening shot.
Yeah. I'm like, this is such a Tanner-ass movie, dude. And I want to hear his thoughts. And then, of course, go around the horn and what we think about specifically the elements of the movie that are about the sort of dry, open spaces that I think, well, they aren't actually the majority of the runtime of the film. I think they're, at least for me, will stick the most with me when it comes to Paris, Texas, in terms of its imagery and vibe.
Yeah, Tucker, thank you for identifying this. I am so glad that this has become some sort of rhyme across any film that we cover on Quest in any form. That yes, It is the opening shot of this film. After these sort of opening credits, these very slow opening credits, you get exactly what I had already mentioned: a wide panoramic shot of like your giant desert monument valley kind of structures with this slide guitar going, and then you get all you see is Travis, Harry Dean Stanton, sort of making his way across one of these, and he's in a gray tattered suit, and he's in a red baseball cap, and he's got a plastic jug in his hand, and it's him amongst this wide, sparse setting. And I think it really, I mean, it's really no wonder why this film kind of lives as images in the cultural memory, I feel, when that is the first kind of striking thing that you are given. And there are numerous examples of similar striking imagery, use of the landscape that that Vendors employs here. That they feel they don't feel as though like necessarily that he is like using this to say something. Really, of course he is, but they feel just a part of the story. They feel at one with the story that is being told here. I think the sparseness of our setting is something that is very important, obviously, with the isolation of Travis, the sort of self-imposed isolation that he has thrust onto himself for 4 years. And he feels comfortable out there, at least for a majority of the film. Like, he keeps wanting to return to this space when he and Walt are driving across the country, are trying to drive back to LA from I forget what the small town it is in South Texas that they mentioned.
It's this one, bro. Terlingua.
Oh, Terlingua. Very good. I didn't even notice that. I saw you repping the shirt. I was like, he's got like a Miller High Life shirt? Hell yeah, man. I love that too.
Miller. No, Low Life. Terlingua.
Okay. All right. Well, but when Walt like decides that he can maybe trust Travis again, like to maybe have a little free agency, they just end up like out in the desert somewhere, and Walt wakes up and Travis is just like sitting on like a broken down pickup truck in the middle of the desert. Like, it is these recurring images of like Americana, especially stuck out in the middle of nothingness in the middle of Texas, that I think are very powerful and weighty images.
And I'm gonna pile on top of that to add the difference that this movie makes between like the nothingness and the busyness. We have we as much as we're set in the desert, we're also set in Los Angeles and Houston and small town Texas too. And the differences in the how it's photographed, and I think maybe more importantly is like what is shown about this. And like Robbie Mueller and Vendors decide, the cinematographer Robbie Mueller, I think have such an excellent grasp of color and the ways that the color of these natural environments is I don't know, is existent, right? The green of the neon on the film stock in contrast with the dark magentas and fiery red and oranges of the sunset. This is, of course, the classic imagery that we all know of the film that you're talking about. The public memory is these intense, like, gas station neon. Inspires a generation of amateur film photographers, right?
Basically, yeah.
It's so beautiful. It's so like evocative of this time of day, but this place, and that kind of unsettling feeling of dusk, of a transition between like the light daytime and darkness in the night. Houston, is tall, gleaming tall skyscrapers. LA is endless spread of the grid and the streetlights. In small town Texas, it's that sunset, that very magenta and colorful sunset, and the ring around the sky. Having moved out of Texas, it's just like that sunset isn't around. It's not up here in the north. It doesn't look like that in the sun. And so I think another important aspect of this film is that this is not an American movie. It tells us in the beginning it is a French and a German co-production. Wim Wenders is a German director. Like Lisbon Story, probably my favorite, probably right up there with this one. Wim Wenders' film, which honestly deals with very similar themes and has a very similar plot structure. That one is very like multilingual and eventually settles on English. And so I find it very interesting that then, of course, we have to speak English the whole time in this film. But Wenders himself as a director is not all that interested in, using English in his movies for mass wide appeal. It's just about the setting.
Mm,
Perfect Days, not in English at all,
true.
Yeah. The thing that I think was so interesting to me about the way that these dry landscapes, particularly at the beginning, are filmed, and even in some way, the dry landscapes of urban Los Angeles or
Yeah.
suburban Los Angeles, what we
Mhm.
get to see, is that they're still very saturated. In a lot of westerns and a lot of movies that set themselves in a desert, they intentionally desaturate the color palette and try to avoid places with bright colors and try to give this sort of arid feeling to it. But while the arid feeling still comes through, it is really shocking how well or how uniquely the desert landscapes come across when they're purposely more saturated than they are in real life. Like this is
Mm-hmm.
definitely a heightened reality in terms of the way that the colors are presented. I've been out in the desert, and the ways that the colors pop, it is the harsh sunlight mutes things. But whatever they did to the color correction here
Mm-hmm.
brings that color back, and so seeing his bright red hat, it doesn't feel washed out against the beige and and the light gray and the bright sunlight, the harsh sunlight. Everything still feels very full, and that's what really stood out to me is presenting a movie that is in some way playing on Western tropes, but is abandoning the muted color style that we usually get. And so I was like, immediately I was like, oh, this is really doing something very, very distinct.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's interesting because I feel like the two things that I paid really close attention to in the film in terms of how it looked is how small we often are in the frame. I think it's very interesting how much space above our characters there usually is. I think the world feels very, very big.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not even just in these landscape moments. I think moments when we're in Houston feel the same way. When there's a couple shots I really love. Um, one where Hunter is sitting behind the wheel of Travis's truck and he's pretending to drive and he is really down off in the corner.
Mm-hmm.
And the building is sort of looming over him. And then there's another moment, again, not a landscape moment, but there's a moment after we've gone to see Jane for the first time, and we're going into the town, the little pull-off town, where we go to the bar. There's this shot where we have Travis and we have Hunter far in the back of the frame, and we're very low to the road, and we're watching like trash blow
Yeah.
towards the
Oh, sure.
camera
Yeah.
up the road. I think all of these moments, even the moments you're talking about earlier, which are, I think, more vivid in their beauty, all kind of leave me feeling um, like the sky is really, really, really big. And I think that there's something um, important there, especially when we end up later in the film and we're having the long confrontation, for lack of a better way to put it, between Jane and Travis. And they're so much bigger in the frame and they're centered in it. And they can't really run. There's a lot of space to run around the frame most of the time in this film,
Mhm.
but not as we reach this end point. I think
Mm-hmm.
the amount of negative space, the way that's used, I think is so beautiful.
Certainly.
Oh yeah, yeah. Do we want to dive into? We've talked about the visuals here.
Mhm.
This kind of the thematic plot line of the being forcibly or willingly exiled from society and coming back to it and coming back to a family and the kind of this adoption of the son Hunter. What do you guys make of this? The kind of more plot details, character moments, building to themes.
I think it's a very well told story ultimately. This is obviously Wim Wenders is not a credited writer on this film. He often, a lot of the credit goes to playwright Sam Shepard, who did a lot of the work and was a very close collaborator with Wenders on this film, who really brought that like that Southern American perspective to
Mm-hmm.
this. He was like, he's a ranch hand, and he's one of the most famous American playwrights, and a lot of his plays revolve around these types of stories. And so, Yeah, I mean, I think it's no wonder that the story really unfurls for me is the kind of the word that the word that kept running through my head about the story, and especially about Travis as a character. I mean,
Hmm.
his entire first act is basically him like being slowly cracked open, like his shell being slowly cracked open by Walt over the course of this road trip. And like, the first words that he utters are feel like a gargantuan moment in the movie. And
Hmm.
then like they just start coming out and it's like a dam has burst and we're like, but he's really still not saying anything. He's sort of definitely regressed to a almost childlike sort of state himself. And over the course of the rest of the film, he just continually becomes more and more able to express himself to a certain degree, of course, until the moment where he is expressing himself the most and clearing the air with Jane and everything like that. But I think the story follows a similar suit, wherein, as I mentioned already before, we start with him isolated, and he wanders into like a dilapidated bar, and he really begins this narrative on the very very outskirts of society, not to just degrade the fine name of one more time, Timo, what's the name
Terlingua.
of the town? Terlingua, Texas. But
Hmm.
like
I,
you
I would
start
agree
you
it's on the outskirts of society,
fair enough.
even in 2025.
But I think you start with just like what are the oddest characters that we see in the entire movie, certainly, which is this. I love this guy. I gotta figure out who the actor is, but he is like the doctor in town who is
Hmm.
clearly a German actor that Wim Wenders cast from
It's
Germany.
Bernard Vicky.
Thank you. Who is speaking in a heavy German accent, or perhaps it's Austrian. I don't really know. Regardless, but he's still speaking in like the South Texas affectation. Like the verbiage and the vocabulary he is using is still very Texan American, but he's saying it with a thick German Austrian accent, and it's just this strange dichotomy that you're like, whoa, okay, we are way out of sorts here. And then
Tanner, that guy,
yeah.
that guy to me felt like a David Lynch character. I'm like,
Certainly, yeah.
I'm like,
There's an
this is
element of
there's
that.
something weird about this guy. His accent's
Yeah,
not quite right. His
mhm.
affectation's not quite right.
And it's
He
not like
felt
the movie.
Lynchy,
Yeah, the movie is not really
Kafkaesque.
that, but it's just like the point at which Travis starts, basically the point at which
Hmm.
Walt has to like reel him back into society. I think it's a really great starting point for the entire film and the story.
Yeah, I do too, because, I had mentioned earlier that I sort of come to be afraid of Travis. I'm not quite
Hmm.
sure that's exactly the word for
Well,
it,
I
but
I
I
thought
wanted
think
that
because
was interesting when you
I
said that.
wanted you to
Yeah.
explain that actually, but continue here. So
because I think the film puts him in a very interesting position to begin with, where you're mentioning, Tanner, the way that he feels infantilized.
Hmm.
And I think that that is a lot down to sort of the nuances of the performance from Henry Dean Stanton. His sort of wide-eyed, shuffling, very worried, very distanced look and demeanor in the beginning portion of the film, and the way that we have Walt babying him to a degree that he
Hmm.
seemingly, as we're getting these little allusions to, maybe shouldn't be babied.
Yeah.
And so we have that, and even before that, as you're saying, we have this sense that he is a strange person in an even stranger world.
hmm.
And so I very immediately start to feel this empathy for him and this like helplessness from him. And I kind of feel like that's complicated and built on as we see him, arrive to Los Angeles with Walt, and the way that Anne is starting to kind of dote on him and try to help him, and they're trying to kind of build him back up to someone, bring him
Hmm.
back into himself. I start to see this as a story of him as a character who is wrong, and as we come to learn, perhaps he
Definitely.
was. But I
Yeah.
think as we come to learn, to me, the real moment when I think the movie turned itself on its ear and really shocked me is when we come to learn, and the reason I said afraid earlier is because he's an abusive
Yeah.
husband by his own admission. And I think that that moment, to me, when I understand suddenly, after we have this very subjective or at least vague lack of clarity around why did Jane leave, when we suddenly come to realize that, she was pushed to it. She was chained to the stove. She was abused. You know, the moment when the film switches, and to me it becomes a story of Travis looking for redemption and righting this wrong that sits with him, reuniting Jane and Hunter. I found that to be a really complicated moment. And I think it only, for me, hits in such a complicated way, such a sort of emotionally involving way, because we begin with him in this place where he feels so pure and infantilized.
Yeah.
And when we come to learn the secret, even if we don't understand what he was actually doing for those 4 years, that's sort of less important to me as a viewer than the what incited Jane to leave in the first place. So that's where that fear for me comes in. This reinterpretation of this character who always just felt kind of odd is this abusive character who's on this path of some kind of self-exile and then some opportunity at redemption. It really makes me think that I was traveling with somebody I didn't actually know for the last 2 hours of the film.
Sure.
The thing that I really like about Wender's his style is this kind of continual question asking that he's prompting. He is always drip feeding us info in a very intentional and well done way to get us asking just the next question about this character. You know, we get dropped in and we slowly learn all this info and build him up, like you say. And so that turning it on its head and reframing who he is in a very, he does this in Lisbon Story as well, where we don't know anything about our main character, and we spend kind of the plot, I guess the engagement thread for me is that I want to know about this guy. We see Walt as a character is very easy to understand. I get a very full picture of him pretty quickly in the movie, and he stays pretty static. He is how he is. Troubled, of course, but troubled by Harry's or Travis, Harry Dean Stanton's character, his actions. But this kind of arc of both my understanding and Travis's understanding I find it very interesting to the questions that I ask myself while I'm watching about this guy and how Wim Wenders can hold info back and give us info. Sometimes it's relevant and sometimes it's not. And so, yes, I find that like this is just part of the style of this filmmaker that I really enjoy.
Yeah. The not knowing, not feeling like you knew him, I think that's a really interesting point, because the element of characterization on Travis's part that I think is most interesting in this movie is his amnesia.
Yeah.
He doesn't remember his past or doesn't want to admit it.
Yep.
There's this weird middle ground where once you learn that he has imposed this isolation on himself, and you start to fill in this picture of a man who is so troubled by what he has done and so haunted by it that he is punishing himself for it. Contrasts in a really interesting way to where we find him at the beginning, which I feel is innocent, but especially at the beginning of the movie, I don't know how you guys felt. I didn't assume something sinister had happened to him, that he had done something necessarily, because maybe it's because of the Harry Dean Stanton's performance and also this amnesia plot element of his character, where when he is asked a question and he says he doesn't know, the look on Harry Dean Stanton's face, I'm like, that has no idea what he's talking about. Like he's like, he gives the most small, quiet, innocent no. Like his eyes are just wide enough and his face is just still enough to where you're like, I don't think he's lying. And watching him relearn about himself, culminating, as you mentioned, in the sequences where he's admitting, I love the character note of him admitting his past and it's spilling his sins to Jane while facing away from her. I think that's a great touch. But
we have to talk about that scene at one point, because there's lots going on there.
Well, so what do you guys think of the amnesia thing? Because I think that's, to me, what really sold me on Harry Dean Stanton's performance. The quietness, the shuffling, all this stuff I'm like is good, but it is the like true quiet bewilderedness
Mhm.
that he embodies of just like a guy that really has no idea who he is. That I think is what makes him so compelling because I then root for him
Hmm.
in some way, and maybe that's what makes the end of the movie
It
more like emotionally taxing. But it's like he seems he seems innocent. He portrays as innocent and maybe not curious, but like he's there. His mind is still there. He doesn't quite know. It's just very, very interesting.
I think it's the brilliance of casting Harry Dean Stanton, who always has this sort of feeling about him in movies. I mean, just like the wispy, reedy look of him,
Hmm.
a man who has
Hmm.
seemingly always been like 55 to 65 years old
Yeah.
in perpetuity. But yeah, it just kind of hit me while Tucker was talking. I was like, what does he like remind me of? It's just a piece of how he looks in this film too, or where he is in this film. Literally, he's like a tumbleweed. He's like a tumbleweed that's just kind of rolling around the desert for 4 years,
Yeah.
and then someone decides to like pick him up and bring him into L.A. and like dress him up in a suit and tie and everything. You're like, that's not what
Yeah.
you do with a tumbleweed. It feels odd
Western
that you're like
Encino Man.
it feels odd that you're like that you're like piling this stuff onto him, and that is what makes I mean really the first moment that you have like maybe a pang of fear in your heart to Abram's earlier point is when he decides to like drive cross country or not cross country but drive back to Texas from LA to go find Jane, and he decides to bring Hunter with him. Like,
Hmm.
I'm not convinced yet that this guy is like capable of looking after a child.
Yeah.
And it's et cetera. I mean, you still kind of get that vibe from him when he's like, yeah, just call your parents on the phone or whatever, and just like tell them the truth, I guess. And I love that scene too because when things get uncomfortable, Hunter doesn't know what to do, and so he turns to the adult that's with him, his father. And is that just like and Travis is just like, I don't know, hang up. Like there is like a aimlessness to his character, Tucker, that you are right about. That you're like, I don't know like how here this guy is, how in the moment he is. It kind of ebbs and flows during his whole stay in Los Angeles, but especially when he's like out on his own in sort of like the beginning of or the end of the second act, I guess it would be. You're like, I really don't know where this story is going to go and what's going to happen here.
Because to think about the Hunter and Walt and this like family that has been found and built and that is very like close knit and has a lot of love together and that they're brothers, and so there's the kind of responsibility between the two of them, but it's flipped, right? Like Travis is the older brother clearly of the two, and yet it is his younger brother who's taking care of
Mhm.
him. um to think it towards the end when Travis is telling Jane, I can't see you. Here's where to go to see your son, and he watches from afar on the top of the parking building to see into the hotel room. Um, that the exile and the amnesia that he found, put himself in, created, whatever, like it's those emotions, those whatever feeling that he had that was so intense to go and do this and to cause him to forget about some things, or at least cause him to believe that he has forgotten about these
Mhm.
things. That core emotion is so very strong that it continues to that final moment. It's we're not clued into what the emotion is. Honestly, we don't know if he's guilty for the abuse that he's caused, or ashamed of having run away, or felt vindicated in doing so. I think that we only see his actions and hear what he says, and Harry Dean Stanton keeps a lot of the emotions that he's feeling very deep within the performance, and so they only bubble out in these kind of little eye movements. I've been working on a feature film, so I've been thinking a lot about performance and eye
Mhm.
movements, and I've been giving notes and stuff. It's a small crew. So just the ways that this deep backstory that we're not necessarily told is informing our character, especially towards the end. Um, it's really tragic. It's just like really, it gives me a lot of questions still to think about what this guy's deal is, which is the question we're asking the whole movie. I mean, I think that's the Wim Wenders secret. The secret sauce is give you a question so good you don't even stop asking it when the movie's over, despite having been filled in quite a bit about some of the potential answers. You never really get to a solution.
Yeah, I think that the film deploys a very clever, I don't even know, like pseudo red herring. Because I think as we're sort of arriving back in Los Angeles for the first time, and we're sort of creating this sort of off kilter family unit now. I think the film, through the perspective of Walt and Anne, becomes one about trying to understand what their life looks like now, and understand, do we still have Hunter in our life? How do we hold on to him? What happens if we can't? And I think that these questions end up feeling potent and feel urgent to me as a viewer because of everything you guys have said. To your point, Timo, what's this guy's deal? To your point, Tanner, well, is he fit to be a father? And to Tucker's point, does he even know where the hell he is? I think that I think that sort of ambiguous character work makes it very easy for me to buy into the urgency of Hunter's belonging. And obviously that's critical to the film, but it's not critical in the way you think it's going to be. Because when they leave together, I think, okay, well, now Walt's coming down after them. Well, now we're going to have to reckon with the fact that we took Hunter out of this environment. And we don't really. And I don't raise this as a criticism of the film. I think it's to say that I think keeping me constantly like grabbing my shoulders and redirecting me and putting me in a different direction is critical to how the film is operating. And I think it's very good in that Los Angeles sequence of really making me buy into how unstable this relationship is and how volatile it could be. You know, I think about moments when we have Hunter lying in bed and he can hear his parents arguing through the walls. You know, we're winding everybody tighter, and I'm like, something is gonna come to a head here, and it does, but not what I think is gonna come to a head. It's not Walt and Travis coming to blows of some literal or metaphorical kind. I think it's very smart to misdirect me in that way.
Yeah, I raised that point about, you know, the precariousness of the realism, I guess, of the elements of Travis and Hunter's relationship. But at the same time, like, there's just plenty of really heartfelt, heartwarming father and son bonding after years apart stuff going on here. And this whole segment in LA is basically Travis building up his relationship to Hunter from the very bottom here again. I mean, you start off with one of the first moments is this tragic thing of Travis waiting on the street corner across from the school and seeing Hunter, who was supposed to wait for him and walk back to Walt and what's Walt's wife's name?
Anne,
thank you. Walt and Anne's house with his dad, basically to have a moment of them bonding together. And Travis sees Hunter get in the car with his friend and drive away, which is kind of an activating moment for him. He's like, okay, what are the signifiers? What are the cultural connotations, the societal markers of a father, and how can I adopt them? And he turns to Walt and Anne's maid basically to help him accomplish these things, which is a pretty fun sequence in itself of them like going through the wardrobe and trying on different things, and then you get the cactus in a suit that I had alluded to earlier, or the cactus, the tumbleweed in a suit that I had alluded to earlier. And you get the funny notes of him like, he doesn't know how he's supposed to look, so he like punches the top of the hat to like make it balloon out, and he flattens the brim around it to make it more of like a cowboy hat looking thing. And then you get
that moment though is really what I was talking about him feeling genuinely innocent, because no one's watching in that moment. I mean, there are people around, but no one's paying attention to him, and he's doing this to try to make himself be presentable to his
Yeah.
son, and he ends up looking goofy. He does this thing with the brim where he puts it like too far up somehow, and then it's like, oh, that's not quite right. And then he does the opposite, which he puts it down. I'm like, well, that's even worse. But it feels silly. It feels like he's being genuine, and so even all the way to that point in the movie, it's like he really is trying his best in that moment. There's so much innocence in just that little interaction there.
Yeah. Then it leads to this very beautiful moment of him and Hunter basically walking on opposite sides of the street, basically all the way back to the house where they are connecting to each other and bonding wordlessly on parallel tracks. And I think that sort of idea or slash visual metaphor is very important to what the ending of the film is.
Mm-hmm. How would you say it connects? Because the tracks then diverge at the end of the film?
I mean, I guess it depends on your perspective at the conclusion of the film. But in Travis's mind, he feels as though it is more beneficial for Hunter and Jane if I don't, is it a parallel track that they are both on their own sort of paths. They're not together though. I think is the clear point there, that they are living separately from one another, that they are no longer stratified. They know what each other's lives vaguely are now. They are not mysteries to one another anymore. But they are still they are moving forward in life separately, but in a positive direction.
Mm-hmm.
I think to me it goes back to the point I was arguing earlier, that I think it becomes a redemptive story for him, and the wrong that he has to right is the way that he separated the family. But I think what makes, to me, the ending so powerful is that he understands that he can't be part of it. That's not his place anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, if we are to put that scene of them walking together on the up the path to the house in conversation with the ending, the distance between them, there's this moment when I feel like Travis is almost timid, and he takes a chance. He stops walking, and Hunter keeps walking a little bit, then he stops, and then Travis crosses the road. And I think that is a very critical decision for his character, because we even see towards the end when he needs to tell everything that he has to tell to Hunter through a tape recorder. He's always playing with this distance. Travis goes back to the sort of like call, I don't even know what you'd call the place where Jane works. Goes back to her establishment, and we leave Hunter in the hotel.
You know exactly what it's called.
You
frequent that many times.
It's like a phone sex consortium.
I think it's I think we can call it like a peep show kind of thing.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
The
like Nickelodeon
one-way mirrored room.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but it's also a role play thing.
Well, let's not kid ourselves. I understand that he's supposed to jack off in there. I understand that.
Wait, hang on a second. I thought they were just there to have nice phone conversations. That's what all the women seemed interested in.
I just don't know from a perspective of taxonomy what you call what she does. So I'm going to go with phone sex consortium.
Adult performer.
And so I feel like he's in this position where I think he can't. Or he's wise enough to understand that the damage he's caused, the abuse he's caused, has fractured this unit in a way that it can never be put back together how it was. And so I think we see visually, and also through these moments of dialogue and through his actions, his choices, the way he works to reassemble our relationship here. Between Jane and Hunter in a way that he's not in. Even the choice to not pull up alongside her on the highway. He doesn't want to spook her. I also don't think he wants all three of them to exist that close together. He's very careful to have them in different places.
Definitely. Yeah. And here's the question then. To what you were mentioning earlier, Abram, of the sort of uncomfortableness that might sit with you as a viewer, knowing that he is someone that either has done, what either was capable of doing awful things, or still is, maybe in some way. Uh, how does this redemptive arc sit with you guys as viewers? These choices that he makes, the innocence that he portrays, the care that he shows towards Hunter, and then the end choice to reunite but to not be involved. What does that make you feel about him as a character? Is this the right move? Do you think he could be involved? Do you think that he is improving to the point where he could be a part of a family unit, or is
Mm.
he is his past so heavily weighed upon him, and the both personally and the ways others view him, to where he no longer has a place, ostensibly in society? Because what we see of him as a character is that he's his goal is to distance himself from everything.
Mm.
So how does that redemption? Do you think that's the right move? Do you think maybe he is being too hard on himself? What are your thoughts on that?
I think that it's the fate that he consigns himself to.
Sure, I
It's
agree with that. Yeah.
he resting in the bed that he made, that he like chose to do, through so many different choices. Um, and that to him, these acts of redemption are, let me think. They're like I think to him they seem like the obvious thing to do. They seem like the right thing and
Mhm.
a moral thing to do compared to the immoral acts that he's done in the past that are, like I said before, are having some guilt or some shame or some deeper emotion that's guiding beneath it. For the reason, like Abram says, is that he's very careful about the placement of the three of them, and that they don't all three get together. It could be he's afraid of himself at this point, and that he sees the way in which he can live life and exist must be on the margins. And this is the choice he's made for himself, and that is why he cannot reconnect fully, and that's why he can't stay with Walter Ann either. I think the connection is strange and too much for him. Um, yeah.
There's a really small moment that I really like when we begin the journey back to Houston, and we're in a motel, and Hunter can't quite remember his mother, and so Walt gives him a photo strip
Mhm.
of Hunter, sorry, of Travis and Jane together, and Hunter says that his dad looks happy there, and his dad doesn't want it back. That's Travis's. It's no longer Travis's. It's Hunter's now.
Hmm.
And so I think we sort of see him in these moments, preparing himself for this, preparing himself to find whatever kind of closure or restitution or redemption he can find, and making that union between mother and son again, because it's really not for himself in terms of not of sorry, it's not for himself in terms of he's not trying to get with Jane again. That's another thing that I was
Hmm.
wondering if that's what was going to happen, but it's
Yeah.
not really about that. And to the performance note you made earlier, Tucker, the character note, him turning around in
Yeah.
Yeah,
in this
it's
um
really, really
yeah,
good.
this space of confession. um he can't he can't be there. He doesn't trust his words. He trusts the tape. He gives the tape to his son. There's one of the most arresting shots I've ever seen when we have her silhouette through the glass and his
Hmm.
face imposed under
Yeah,
her
crazy
hair.
shit.
Hmm.
It's just technically beautiful art,
Yeah.
artful filmmaking. But I think also, you know, like they can't the closest they can come to touching is through the reflection of the glass. He
Hmm.
Hmm.
can't be on the other side of that wall. And for what reason he's doing that, I'm not sure necessarily, because he remains somewhat inscrutable, to use the word of the day. But I think what we can infer from his actions is that ultimately where he's at, it's about reuniting Hunter and Jane, and he doesn't belong in that picture.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
So I want to talk about, since we're basically already here, I want to talk about, Jane and basically the concluding act of this film, as told through basically their first meeting, this final sort of moment between Travis and Hunter, and then the prolonged basically second meeting / end of the film.
Mm-hmm.
So the first meeting is obviously where a lot of imagery comes from. It is where the colors really pop from a visual standpoint. It is Jane in this like pink furry sweater, and she is in this hotel room kind of setting. This basically these small sets that are set up at the peep show behind the curtain. And it's in that
Where's the
sequence.
woman with a big amiibo collection behind?
That's
I want to go to that peak.
You go to that location in 2025, Tucker. I'm sure they got all sorts of collections there for you.
There for you.
Yes.
How many hours to get to Houston?
Like 2.5 for you,
in this first sequence, I think it's important to note that Jane doesn't know that it's Travis on the other side.
I gotta go.
Okay, here we go.
Criterion Closet peep show location.
Absolutely.
Oh,
There we go.
There we
You
go.
want to corner a market. You want to corner a market, and that's where it is. But that's important to note about this sequence is that, and not a lot. I mean, you have to maybe perhaps jog my memory if there's anything that stands out to you, gentlemen, about this first meeting. But I mean, what really stands out to me is that Travis seemingly goes into it not really knowing what to get out of this meeting. It's like a probing sort of experiment for him. Is like he sees Jane again after 4 years, but she does not see him. She does not know it's him, and he barely speaks a collection of words to her. He basically reassures her that he is there so she won't immediately leave, but he doesn't really say anything after that from my recollection anyway.
My reading of that and why he doesn't go to, like, it's not a particularly deep conversation. It's not only because he doesn't know. I think you're right, but I also think he doesn't. I think he doesn't come into it expecting that it's actually going to be her, because until the moment that he steps into a second room and she enters, he has no fucking idea, because like the only person that has seen her is
that's a good point.
his son, who was 4 the last time he saw her, and is looking at a picture of her from a number of years ago, and she had glasses on, and it was a fleeting moment that he looked up, and so there are all these layers of,
and there's even like
frankly, me as a viewer, I'm not even sure if I think that she's actually going to be here. And
there's also like the shell
because I don't know
thing of the two cars that he's like, well, did we choose the right car? Even
exactly.
There's all these question mark moments that arise before this meeting.
Yeah, well, and even. And it comes down almost solely to performance, in that we don't, like, we see her in the home videos, but I don't, like, that sequence wasn't like long enough or focused on her enough for me for me to have her, what she looked like, burned into my mind. And so I didn't know if either one was her until he reacted in the way that he did. I mean, frankly, even that first woman could have been her. Like, for all I know, it's a blonde white woman. Like, sue me. But the amount of like layers of confusion make this first sequence so interestingly and uniquely tense, because I'm putting us in the shoes of Travis. What the hell would I do with this? I have no idea. It's so weird for like 7 different reasons.
And it's just so lovely how Wenders holds on Travis's face in that moment. We just like sit there and watch his reaction, and we just watch and watch and watch as, as she comes into the room, and then we pan over. I think it's just very masterful filmmaking, understanding what you need out of the scene there to just like sit on this reaction for so long. It's a good like 30, 40 seconds, it feels like.
Yeah, I think there's also just like this degree of because we come to learn in the longer second exchange that they have, that jealousy is something that he was very much consumed by. And his questioning in the first meeting is like,
Thank you.
yeah,
I was literally, I have it pulled up on my phone right now, just reviewing what goes down in that first sequence. And yeah, sorry, continue. I don't mean to
yeah,
step on it, but you're exactly right.
yeah. He wants to know who are you fucking? Who
Yeah.
are you going home with your clients? And like it to,
Yeah.
and I think that in that moment, I don't quite get it yet.
Mm-hmm.
But in the way that that second exchange is so revelatory, I look back on the first one through the light of him needing to know. He needs to know. And I think that's another
Mhm.
moment where you see, okay, this is not somebody who's ready to be back in this woman's life.
Right.
He's still consumed
He
by
kind
this.
of immediately reverts back to
Mm-hmm.
exactly what caused the problems in the first place, as we come
Mhm.
to find out. And that's why I think. And first of all, I just want to throw out there that Natasha Kinski is incredible in both of these like scenes. And like just the way that there's just some people that you see in movies on film that you're just like, yeah, that's a person who is like meant to be on film, whose
Mhm.
face is perfect, whose face is so emotive. Because a lot of the a large chunk of these scenes are just really just locking in on our actors'
Yeah,
faces
really.
between these like brief interchanges of dialogue, and like it doesn't really get better than the faces of Harry Dean Stanton and Natasha Kinski, who I'll admit I don't think I've seen in a lot of other films, but like
Mhm.
there's a reason why her image is indelible, is inseparable from the images that people circulate about Paris, Texas, because she just does so much with just her face wordlessly in these sequences, especially the second one, as Travis is going through his retelling, and you see the confusion and denial and slow realization on Jane's face, all while Harry Dean Stanton is going on this basically this 10-minute monologue, like
Mhm.
retelling what has happened 4 years ago, and the way she plays that is really truly incredible.
You know, I think what's so good about that is we've been referring to this as like a confessional or something, right? But
Yeah,
it's
definitely.
it's interesting because he has the power. He is the client. He can see her. She can't see him. And
Mhm.
if we're thinking that there is this abusive power dynamic that's fractured them in the first place, there is something a little bit insidious about the way that she is sort of
There is, yeah. I mean, the sexual
trapped.
connotation of
Hmm.
the environment, the location that they are in.
She is
Mhm.
trapped there and must listen to what he has to say. Now, I think obviously we come to see that she does want to hear it. That there
Hmm.
is something here that she needs closure on too. But he has the power there still, and that's where I think again this complex emotional uncertainty that I have towards him, that fear, I think is intrinsic to the construction of the scene, and I think that there's a brilliant line that we have Jane deliver that deepens this and deepens the sort of the purgatory she's been in.
Mhm.
We see him in a purgatory of this sort of literal wandering, but she makes this remark that she hears his voice
Yep.
always in all of the men that come in here.
And
Mm, yeah.
even at night, it like wakes her up at night, even when she's not at
Hmm.
work.
Yeah.
And
Um,
even after like she talks about how she had this um she was like rehearsing monologues. She was rehearsing
yeah.
speeches for how she would dress him down, and but even after those faded, his voice,
Hmm.
it's
Mhm.
still there.
I
Yeah.
mean, I think it points to like the clearing of the air that is necessary between these two characters,
Yeah.
regardless of like regardless of the ugliness of what happened between them, and what Travis did to her. There is a mutual clearing of the air that needs to happen all these years later. But I think to your point about the dynamic, I think there's a very important sequence, basically the meat in between the bread of these two mirrored glass sort of conversations,
Mhm.
is when Travis takes Hunter, they drive out of Houston. He seems like completely frazzled by what just happened. I think it's the moment, the sequence in which he realizes what must be done, the decision that he ultimately makes. This is where it is codified for him. And it's a scene where he's laying down on this couch, and Hunter is sort of humorously sitting in this chair, so it looks like they're in a therapist's appointment, literally, between an adult man and his young son. And he retells this story about his parents, his father and his mother, who grew up in Paris, Texas, or who met in Paris, Texas, I should say. The first time he tells this story is when he's in the car with Walt, and he tells it as a humorous sort of tale of like, oh, you remember when Dad used to do this? Oh, it was so funny, and he got a laugh out of everybody, and that's why Paris, Texas is important to me. Is that it's this moment that's stuck in my head from Dad. But in this sequence, at the end of the film, he tells it again, and he says, and he thinks about what it did to his mother. I think that is a very, very important thing. It's a realization that Travis makes, in the middle of his life, basically, where he is like considering like, oh, what about like my mother, who kind of just silently took all of this, and who it was like a joke a little bit at her expense, that everyone thought she was like more exotic than she actually was, and in fact, she was just a regular Texas gal and everything. It's like, well, I wonder what that did to her, like emotionally and psychologically. And he considers all of these things, and that is the moment in which he maybe identifies that he is more like his father, and he has done to Jane what his father did to his mother. And the point at which he makes that decision to make things right and leave Hunter with Jane, and leave them to live out their lives.
Yeah, I think that I almost read that scene in the way that he slightly phrases the words of that story differently as he's telling it to Hunter, almost as if he's telling a story about himself and Jane, and how it's a light way of communicating to Hunter why there's a distance between him and Jane. And that's something that, maybe it's a passing on of a knowledge of don't recreate this in your future. But it's like, I read it more as him like smoke screening his own admission to Hunter of that there's this distance in the past, that I have done something that hurt Jane's feelings, in the lightest possible ways, like all that stuff. Yeah, it really, to me, felt more like he was talking about himself and not his father.
Sure.
And Abram's nodding vigorously, so I guess I'm not the only
I think that's a very good reading, because I think that both of what you guys are saying is true. But, in this, we know that he can't speak about himself so openly. Even when he's drunk, the closest he can get is this recountment to his son. So I do think that, I think at minimum, the way his character is created and shown to us in the film, it's hard for me to look at that scene and not think that he's in that story.
Absolutely. And then also, I mean, it basically ends with him going to the crossroads and Hunter being like, turn left, go back to Houston. Like, let's do the end of the movie, Dad. Come on, let's do this thing. I love that. Another note, in case we are getting towards the point of wrapping up here, another small connection I made is, Hunter is all about space, and he often goes on these meandering, like, recollections of things that he read in books about, like, the Big Bang or whatever. And I just found that his obsession with the Big Bang especially sort of mirrors Travis's obsession with, like, Paris, Texas as the place where he began. The place where he was conceived, basically. I just thought that was like an interesting sort of juxtaposition.
Well, isn't conception really like the Big Bang of personhood?
That's true. They did the Big Bang on that empty lot or whatever.
They did the Big Bang. Indeed, they did.
I also just wanted to shout out, I think, the moment where, like, I was like just like floored by performance. It's when Hunter and Jane meet in that hotel room, and
I still want to talk about the ending. To be clear, I just if moving into the final phase of that exactly.
So let's talk about that then. I mean, the way that she sort of nervously enters that room, and he just wordlessly goes up and wraps himself around
Yeah.
his mother. I mean, that's just like beautiful, because I think that one of the great tragedies throughout the story is Hunter, what he's forced to reckon with. I
Yeah.
love the scene when he's talking with the other kid at the crosswalk about how he has two dads, and he's just lucky enough to have two dads.
Lucky enough to have two dads.
Mm-hmm.
This is to me is a great type of film character where they have one foot in this world of reality of being a kid who loves Star Wars and loves his arcade games, and it's just
Love Star Wars.
Yeah, he
fucking
does.
loves Star Wars, and he looks like a Final Fantasy character with his big hair, and I'm like, this is a great little kid character. But then you have this very filmic, very larger than life sensibility where he comes with just these like crazy right hooks about life, and he's like asking Travis, like, do you still feel your dead father walking and talking? And he's like, I still felt you when you were gone. And I'm like, what the fuck is
this? Is that's like amazing scene right there.
Yeah, I think
and Travis is like, Travis is kind of indicating that like he saw the death or like was immediately around it, and so there was no question on whether or not he was alive or not. Because that whole line from the beginning of the film where the brother's like, well, we could just kind of, it's been so long, we just kind of thought you died, but here you are.
Yeah,
he's this character that is like both very of his, what's he in, like third grade? Like he's got this
he's 7.
He's got this
7, 8 years
Travis?
old.
Yeah, Travis.
Yeah, Travis is a little older than that, I think.
So he's got this kid.
Travis could be anywhere between 35 and 97.
Ain't that the magic of Harry Dean Stanton, though?
Yep.
So we've got this kid who's like very childlike, but also contains this real emotional depth and capacity. And I think in this story we were talking about, the whole scene we just discussed is about this passing down of cyclical dysfunction. Yeah. And I think with this like this heartening thing that this kid who has to tank all of this and try to understand just who his family is and the situation he's thrust in the middle of, to sort of have him absorb all of this, and then to have this moment when he sees his mother again. And it's just beautiful. It's just beautifully acted. It really is just so disarming to me.
And my favorite part about that sequence is how they don't say anything to each other, right?
Right.
Jane and Hunter. But their excitement in the moment escalates and actually melts away almost instantly, which is a very interesting character note on both their parts of how I read from both of them actually that they've kind of been suppressing this longing, and that while they do want to find each other, neither of them have been pursuing it really strongly. We know that actually to be true about Jane, given that she's only contributing financially in a meager way.
She said she doesn't even want to imagine him anymore.
Finish your point, and I have something to say.
But the fact that they have been suppressing this longing and not even wanting really to admit that this is something that they can or should chase, watching that fall away immediately in the sort of childlike whimsy that they both have, something that we see from Jane in the home videos is that she's a very playful person. In that they do the hug, great moment. If this was if this was a different movie, I think it would have faded to black. Just shortly after that, or we're having a conversation. But having that happen and then having her pick him up and spin around, and like you can see them like they're giddy in that moment. I think that touch of having that melt away and just kind of revert to this like playfulness and this joy that they have together is really powerful for both of them.
To the line that Abram mentioned, Kinski just gets like 2 like barbed wire covered bats of emotionality lines like back to back in this like 20-minute clearing of the air that between her and Travis. They're basically back to back lines of, I wanted to see him so bad I couldn't stand to imagine him anymore, and then also the reason why she abandoned him, basically left him with Walt and Anne. She says, I didn't want to use him to fill all my emptiness. just
Wow.
just wallops of of dialogue writing there and delivery as well. You guys have any thoughts on the? I mean, other than like it rules and it's masterful and it's awesome. This 20-minute segment that precedes this.
I kind of feel like I've shared a lot of my thinkings on it.
Fair enough.
Mhm. Yeah,
Fair enough.
I generally parrot you guys. I think like the pacing is so very well done that we just get to we're sitting in it, and it takes forever. I guess a thought of mine that is about not just the whole runtime of this movie, but the whole runtime of every Wim Wenders movie is that there's usually at least multiple points where I'm like really sleepy in a Wim Wenders movie. Every single one I've seen, this happens. And so I think it's so interesting that these movies are also languid and yet they are also interesting. That they can simultaneously, like, I can kind of like drift in and out of consciousness, not for Quest, of course, for
You lock in.
pay attention for
Every other time though.
yeah, for my enjoyment. It's like, oh, you're watching a movie for fun and I want to sleep, maybe I do sleep a little bit. And then it's like you pop back in and
I'll do that in the theater
boom.
sometimes, by the way. Like I'll feel myself getting tired and I'm like, well, I'm just gonna conk out for a couple minutes to like make it go away and then I'll come back.
Yeah, and then the
Oh.
Two
movie
movies I've ever
ends.
fallen asleep in the theater are Paws of Fury and If.
I can't believe you saw If in theaters.
Yeah.
Is that a John? Was that a John joint?
That's a bigger. I think Tanner and everybody was there. I think that's a big group.
Oh, for
Yeah.
F.
Yeah, definitely.
Sorry, not important. We're
But-
So
saying.
important.
Well, I mean, my
listen,
sleeping
Did
note not
If
super
win?
important. It doesn't. It makes me kind of enjoy them more. It's like, yeah, I get a little sleepy when I'm watching a Wim Wenders movie, and it happens every time. This is how it is.
Yeah.
Well, this one specifically, I think it's because the dialogue is very spaced
Oh yeah.
out.
Oh yeah.
The amount of time between responses is quite long in this movie. And initially, the movie sets you in that mood by not having the central character respond to things.
Mhm.
And so I think that kind of sets you up because you're like, okay, well, pacing wise, it makes sense. Like Walt is confused, Travis not saying anything. Like this is how it's established, but that does continue across the course of the whole movie. Like
Yeah.
people just take a while to mull over their thoughts, I guess, in this film.
Well, these are very emotionally considered things that they have to go through, and like
Yes.
even in this final conversation, like Travis is trying to be very deliberate in what he is saying in an attempt to not slip back into the mode that he knows he can slip back into, and I think that informs the final note of the movie. Which I kind of wanted to ask you guys about. If someone walked up to you, someone who's not very versed in film or anything like that, and I obviously know that the true answer lies somewhere in the gray area about the end of this movie. But would you say to this person that this movie has a happy ending or a sad ending?
It has.
I think I would
I
say
think it has to be happy
Yeah.
because the majority of the characters I think are happy. I think I would even say that for Walt and Anna. I mean, if I'm sort of future projecting the world
Yeah.
that this movie has created,
uh-huh.
I would probably read some way of Anna, Walt, Jane, and Hunter living in the same area. Maybe it's the same house. Maybe
Sure,
it's
sure.
the same neighborhood or something. But the bond that all four of them have, well, I guess all through Hunter, I don't think that Jane would have Hunter live apart from the people who have become his parents.
Fair enough.
Because I also don't know if she sees herself as ready to be a mother.
They
Hmm.
say it's claimed earlier in the film that she said that that was one of the parts that she
Yeah.
didn't have to her was the motherly part.
Exactly. But even to this point, like, okay, I'm future projecting her mindset. We only get a fleeting moment of them at the end. Like, I think that she would move to LA. She can get that kind of job anywhere. And that Hunter would live with Walt and Anna. They would raise her, raise all that stuff. And I think that Travis made the right call for himself in terms of
Yeah.
self-satisfaction. He's learned about himself. He's made that connection. He got to see his son. And also even Jane. But I think that it's bittersweet for him, but I think ultimately he's probably happy too. So I think that it's happy almost across the board for me.
I agree. I also just think if you're Walt, best case scenario, you get to see Hunter again. Worst case scenario, you get his Return of the Jedi bed sheets. So
That's true. So true. And his action figures. His
action figures.
definitely like the first run of Star Wars action figures.
Whoa.
You know, the Kenner figures.
Oh yeah,
These are worth a pretty penny.
Yeah, quite an investment.
Well, actually, the Kenner figures from that era are worth less than the ones from the first film, but we don't need to get into this.
Okay.
I thought I knew something in there.
Should we score this one?
Yeah, sure.
I was thinking
Actually,
we'd skip it for this one.
Or we can
Oh,
yeah,
okay, fair enough.
no score needed. Tanner, you have some palm details for
Yeah,
1984.
I do. Just give me 1 second. Just let me search up some of these names. I was going to do this before while we were talking, but I forgot, just to get an idea of who these people are that served on the Cannes jury in 1984, of course.
Mhm.
This was the sole winner of the Palme d'Or in 1984. The jury president was Dirk.
1984.
That's right. Was Dirk Bogarde, who is a English actor and screenwriter, most well known for things like The Night Porter, Death in Venice, The Servant, things of that nature.
Okay.
Let's see here. Also on the jury this year were some names, some big names certainly. Isabelle Huppert was on the jury this year. Ennio Morricone was on the jury this year. Yes. The very same. And
Every time you walked in a room, it would actually play.
and
God damn it, Ennio's here.
American director Stanley Donen
Ennio the
was
Smiling Man?
on. What's that? What did you say?
Don't worry about
That's
it.
right.
Don't
That's
worry
right.
about it.
Okay. Anyway, Stanley Donen was also on the jury this year, the director of Charade and Singing in the Rain and Funny Face and stuff like that. So, yeah.
Very nice.
Other notable films in competition, the 18 other films in competition. Let's see here. We have The Element of Crime from Lars von Trier, Under the Volcano by John Huston, and Where the Green Ants Dream by Werner Herzog.
Oh, Vanna.
That's a cool ass name for a movie.
Where the Green Ants Dream. What are the green ants, Werner? And why? What do they dream of? Electric sheep, perhaps?
Why?
Wait, you mean that guy from The Mandalorian?
I am
That's
thinking about the
Show me
green
the
ants.
baby.
Why do they dream, and what do they dream of? Score time?
I want
time.
to
Let's
see
do it.
the ants.
I want to. See.
Wait. I didn't
Yeah, I was
pull-
gonna say Tucker's not on the sheet. I don't see him. I don't.
No, I was-
his little square's not
He
grayed
just
out.
he just got flashbanged by the sheet.
You think is Werner going to be in The Mandalorian and Grogu?
God, I hope. I mean, did his character die?
I don't remember. I got to rewatch Mandalorian before that.
Sure.
comes out.
Okay, fair enough. And Book of Boba Fett?
Let's. We don't.
I just might. Black
He
Chrysanthemum.
just might. Let's
Go see Black Chrysanthemum again.
Score time.
Keep pushing.
3,
Timo.
2, 1. Punch your score in. Punch it in.
D ba 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 da ba.
Ooh,
Yeah,
ooh,
cha cha.
oh, we've got a number. What a number this one is. This is a pretty
What
tall
a
number.
Pretty hefty number.
A pretty hefty number.
Whoa!
9.4.
This is a big one. That's a big one.
Big one. So 9.4 rockets up to a bing, bang, boom. Spot number 2 on the list. Underneath
Wow.
Parasite, above
Huge.
Winter's
Yeah.
Sleep. We crossed
Big money
the
moves being
threshold.
made.
I did my part. I specifically gamed my number so that the likelihood of us getting 9.1 would be less. I was thinking about it. I
Yes,
said,
thank you.
I've got to pick a
God.
number so that 9.1 is not what this movie gets. So I'm happy for that. The point breakdown, Tucker gave it an 8.3. I gave it a 9.2. And Tanner and Abram gave it a flat 10.
Ding 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 ding. 2 to 10 out of 10. Bang bang bang.
Two
bang,
10
ding,
out
ding,
of
ding, ding.
10s.
Jackpot.
That's pretty good. Yeah, there you have it. Not a lot of debate to be had over where this excellent film goes. Paris,
right.
Texas. We loved it. Simple as. Cool.
Simple
Simple as
as.
indeed.
Let's go talk to some Spin Wheel. How about maybe?
Mosey on over.
Do you
We'll
think we
slide
can...
guitar us over to the spin wheel?
Yeah. Wah, wah, wah. Now I got Morricone stuck in my head. I can
That's just
only-
Morricone.
I,
again.
I know. But Ry Cooter's so good too. Come on.
That's good. That's right.
Here it is, Tanner. For you
Okay.
to sing a sultry, lovely tune.
Okay. Wheel, wheel, what's your deal? Give us a movie that makes us squeal. Is it on digital or is it on real? Wheel, wheel, what's your deal?
Wheels deal. It's deciding. 33. That's the deal.
Oh, that's a quite modern one, isn't it?
No, I believe so. The higher the number, the more modern it is. So 33 out of
yes,
yeah.
indeed. Yes, indeed. Okay, so we're going to be going to the year 2006.
2006.
Yes, we're going
Okay.
to be covering a film by a director of whom we have covered on this show before.
Okay.
The Palme D'or show specifically. This is a film that hails from the land of Ireland, particularly. I think this is a Irish story, especially.
Mhm.
We have some Irish actors here. Orla Fitzgerald. Just let me know how these Irish names hit you, gentlemen. Orla Fitzgerald, Liam Cunningham, Padraig Delaney.
Oh,
and
yeah.
little guy you might have heard of, Cillian Murphy,
Oh.
is in this picture.
Oh, whoa. Oh.
This
What
is
is it?
from
What is it?
this is from Ken Loach. This is The Wind That Shakes the Barley.
The wind that shakes the barley. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay, Ken Loach. We
Yes.
we really enjoyed I, Daniel Blake, so we'll see what this one is like.
All right.
So-
You want a plot description here?
I do.
Yeah.
I do.
In 1920s Ireland, young Dr. Damien O'Donovan prepares to depart for a new job in a London hospital. As he says his goodbyes at a friend's farm, British black and tans arrive, and the young man is killed. Damien joins his brother Teddy in the Irish Republican Army, but political events are soon set in motion that tear the brothers apart.
Ooh,
Sure.
up the raw.
Yes. So we had a Troubles film, a film
An
about
early
the
tr-
Troubles.
The
Oh.
early troubles too.
Mhm.
Good
Mhm.
news. This one's on AMC Plus. It's on Acorn TV. It's on Sling
Oh.
TV. It's on Philo.
Whoa,
Oh.
but at least some of those are free, I think.
Is it on Pooh?
Is it on Poopy? Does Poopy happen for you?
Someone's got poopy.
It's also
Is it on Chumo?
a cool, just a touch over 2 hours. This film,
Just a touch.
127 minutes for this one.
Okay. Well, I am looking forward to that. We are gonna see, downer or not, we're gonna have to come up with some sort of downer rating scale. It's kind of irrespective of the numerical like list scale, but like a A through F, like how downer of a movie.
This
is
might
it?
be as close to like an action movie as the can folks like to get. I mean, the header image here is Cillian Murphy marching down a grassy knoll with a pistol in his hand. So
grassy knoll?
Grassy
Grassy
knoll
knoll,
with a
you say.
rifle. Well, this promises to, well, maybe, I don't know. Promises is a strong word. Perhaps it'll be fun. Perhaps it'll be interesting.
I don't think it's going to be fun.
We never really know till we watch it. I thank you guys for discussing Paris, Texas today. Good job, Wim Wenders, for going on our very far up on our list here. We love you, and now you're a friend of us here on the show.
Very
So
true.
next time we'll do Wind That Shakes the Barley, and you know what I say. Stay cool, keep warm. Peace.